Welcome into the WCS Coaches Show. I'm District Athletic Director Patrick Whitlock, and our game tonight is a big one. We've got Brentwood at Page, and I have the two head coaches here, Clint Finch of Brentwood and Coach Rathbone from Page. Gentlemen, welcome into the show.
Thanks for having us.
Always glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, Brentwood currently sits at 2-1, had a region win over Summit 35-7 last Saturday due to all the weather Friday night, and also that weather prevented Page and Hendersonville from closing out their game. Page remains undefeated at 2-0 and currently is ranked number 2 in the state in the 5A poll. So, coaches, let's just talk about how the season's gone so far. Coach Rathbone, we'll start with you. How would you assess your team's progress so far in this early season?
Well, we're kind of a product in motion. You know, we started out defensively, didn't play that well against Giles County, and worked some of that out against Green Hill, and was hoping to get more reps and more work on it against Hendersonville, and that didn't pan out. So, you know, we're kind of in progress. You know, the guys are working hard, playing hard, and, you know, just kind of getting them in the right spots and making the plays once they're in those spots. And that's going to take a little bit of time, and hopefully we're ready to do that by week 5 or 6 when we get into region play.
Coach Finch started off with a tight one against Smyrna, had a rough one against BA, and then come out and really kind of put it on Summit in the second half Saturday. How would you assess your team's play so far this year?
I think a big word for us this year was kind of growth. Like each Friday night, we needed to be, a week better than the last Friday night. It was rough against Smyrna, but, we had a lot of new starters out there. Obviously, BA's incredibly talented, and as rough as that was, there's a lot of good lessons learned that night. And we feel like, we had one of probably our best outing of the year against Summit. So we feel like we're progressing the right way. It's just with so many new faces on offense and defense right now, it's just taking us a while to figure everything out.
All right, so we don't often get a 6A, 5A matchup in this county. Some coaches just kind of are averse to scheduling this. Digging into the historical data, it appears this game has not been played since 2002. Huge matchup. We expect an amazing atmosphere. So I want to ask you guys, and we'll start with you, Coach Finch, what motivated you to schedule this game?
So I think when you go into scheduling, and I'm like a lot of coaches, it's not a fun process, I think to always go through. But going into it, you want to play good people. You want to play people that it'll be a competitive game. And I think there's always an economic aspect to it as well. And we felt like if we could get hooked up with Page, it would be a new Williamson County game that people haven't seen a lot. We thought it would generate a lot of interest. Obviously playing a really good team that's won a lot of football games, a great challenge for our kids. And Coach Rathbone, and we were able to get it worked out. And I'm hoping it's going to be a positive experience for both of us.
Coach Rathbone, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, usually I hate scheduling games, number one. 6, 7 years ago was a whole lot easier than it is now, I promise you. But, I kind of I like playing coaches that I enjoy being around. I don't like playing somebody that I just can't stand or I hate, or the banter, or, all the smack talk and all the other stuff. And I got a lot of respect for Coach Finch. Coach Finch, we do a great job of communicating in the county, so it's made it a lot easier over the last few years of scheduling those games. So for me, it's more about getting a quality opponent, a good coaching staff. So if we are down, you're not going to put 100. If you're down, we're not going to put 100. Those type things where it's a very respectful atmosphere. You play hard, you shake hands and pray together at the end, and you go on about preparing for the next week. And to me, that's very important. That's a culture that I love, that I promote. And I think he feels the same way. And I think that's really why it panned out and happened the way it did.
Yeah, it looks like the weather's going to hold up. I imagine over there tonight it's going to be an amazing atmosphere. So, Coach Rathbone, you guys didn't get to play last week. I know that was a disappointment. You talk about scheduling and how tricky that can be, and sometimes things just don't work out. But how do you think that impacts your team going into week 4? Sometimes a layoff can be detrimental. Sometimes it's just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, I'm a little worried, to be honest with you. We were really clicking and playing well on offense. So when you're playing well on offense, you don't want a week off, because that gives you a kind of an extra prolonged period of where you got to create reps instead of getting real reps. And defense, obviously, it's a lot about getting in the right position, the right space, being at the right place at the right time, and it takes reps to do that. So I was kind of hoping, really wanting to play last week. It was kind of a different type of team we'd play, more of a wing T team that we haven't seen this year. So I was hoping we'd get some snaps, and we got 2, and just didn't happen for us. So we got to move on and play this week.
Coach Finch, nice 35-7 win after probably being at school pretty late Friday night. Maybe some of your kids taking the ACT on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
and then playing a football game at 2:30 in the afternoon. Not an ideal situation. It gives you, maybe one less day of what your normal week looks like. How do you think that's impacted your team this week?
Well, I think number one, we were blessed that Summit was willing to come out there on Saturday and get that game in. But of course, region game, you don't have a lot of choice. We've probably tried to approach it as we understood we were -1 on recovery day. Like I'm kind of gotten big on that the older I get, giving them those weekends off. We've tried to scale back just a little bit in practice this week, but our kids, we fortunate we didn't have to stay there too late. We kind of made the decision pretty early that hey, this isn't going to happen, so we were able to get them home. Lots of our kids took the ACT test on Saturday, but that was kind of good because it put them in a little bit of a school frame of mind. It didn't feel quite as weird because they were at school most of the day. But I think the most important thing was we just had a chance to go out and play and get better, and we did that. So well worth the little bit of headache that it was for us.
So, Coach, this year, I think the best way to describe your team is it's kind of been the Parker Emerson show. Obviously, you got a lot of other kids contributing, but he has 4 touchdowns on Saturday, 3 receiving, 1 on the ground. He was going to step in and fulfill your quarterback role potentially when you had some guys out earlier in the year. Just talk about what he means to your team, because so far this season, on paper, he's been one of the top, if not the top player in this county.
Yeah, and I always want to start out with Parker that obviously a good football player, but even a better person. Parker's a team-first guy. When Gavin was out with some illness early on, we went to him and said, hey, we need a quarterback to get us through the scrimmages. We know this is going to be a while, and he never blinked. He just said, yeah, I'll do that, and did a really good job of it. Great athlete. Even when he was a freshman, we knew that we believed that he was going to be a special football player. You got to remember, as a sophomore last year, started on the back end at safety for us, and did so with very little reps to do that with. He was going to be a receiver last year. We felt it was best to put him at safety, and he did a great job there. On offense, he's one of those guys that you need to get touches over the course of the game. Sometimes that's with him taking the snap, running it. Sometimes we're handing it to him. Sometimes we're throwing it to him. But works incredibly hard, has a high football IQ. That's always a huge advantage. Surrounded by a lot of other good athletes, so it's kind of hard just to key on him. But absolutely, last Saturday was a great day for him. But I think he threw for 1 against BA and caught 1 against BA, and then scored 2 against Smyrna. So he's been a pretty good scoring machine for us thus far.
Coach Rathbone, when you're playing against a guy like that, does it change your preparation? Obviously, Coach Vince saying, hey, you got a lot of other good players around him, but do you key on a guy like that? I mean, how does that play out?
I think you have to. You got to know where he's at all times. I mean, he's a threat. But they got more than just one guy, and they do a great job of moving him around. I mean, he's all over the field. So if you try to key on him too much, then obviously you're going to forget about the other 10. And really, we all know that the other 10, especially that 5 up front, that's what really makes everything go. So we got to, we're going to not key on him, but we're going to know where he's at, but also try to be in the right places and the right zones, right scheme, and hopefully they'll throw one to us or when they're trying to throw it to him or something like that. But he's obviously a great player. They got a couple of them. I really like their tackles. Their offensive tackles play really well. I know they're young guys, I believe, but they play really well. So, we're excited for the matchup. We feel like this will be the best coach team that we played. Green Hill was really good, really athletic. But I feel like, Brentwood will be very well coached and be where they're supposed to be and be a different challenge for us than what we've seen the first 2 weeks.
Now, Coach, your roster is littered with Division I talent. You've got guys like, Knight Wilson, Caden Ackerman at skill positions. I think probably the most impressive thing about your team is how big you are up front, including your son, Jacob, and then also Jordan Curl. Talk about some of their contributions this year.
Well, Knight didn't play the first game. He came back from an ailment, and Jake played one way the first game. So obviously getting those 2 back is going to help our defense. But really Ackerman and then we had a transfer in from Kansas City, the quarterback, Cam, that came in. All those guys just work extremely hard off the field to bring the team together. You constantly see these guys stand after practice, and they're not necessarily standing after practice to work on themselves, but they'll have sophomores and juniors up there working with them and teaching them how, in this coverage, this is where you got to be, and you got to be watching this guy. This is your key from the snap. So they're constantly coaching the younger guys to get better, and we've had that for the last 4 years. And everybody wants to give me credit or blame me or whatever. It's really the kids. It really does come down to the kids coaching each other and teaching each other and building an environment and atmosphere that makes it welcoming. And those guys just a world of difference. Just just a world difference. We are big up front. I feel like we're going to be a physical team up front, but Brentwood is too. You know, they're probably not as big as we are, but they play physical. I mean, they play physical. So, you know, trying to get those kids to focus on the now. High school, when you coach high school, focus on the now. Don't focus on next year. Don't focus on where you're going to be in January. Like Jake, for example, he's enrolling in January. Worry about now. Don't worry about January. Knight, going to Air Force. Worry about now. Don't worry about all that money they're throwing around at you in Air Force. You know, and that's the biggest challenge for me.
No doubt. So, well, coaches, we've talked about some of the headliners. Coach Finch, we'll start with you. You know, we talked about Parker Emerson, but who are some other guys that have had a significant impact for your team so far this year that maybe we don't hear a lot about?
Well, it's always going to all kind of echo Coach Rathbone. Your O-line is always so important. Philip Wink, Zane Carlson, Waylon Raskulinitz.
Glad I didn't have to say
that. Yeah, well, there's also a Kyle Nabrotsky in there, Patrick McCammon, and just a number of really good offensive linemen that are stepping up to play for us. And for us to be successful, I think at any level of football, your offensive line has to be able to function at a high level. So we're pleased with how they've come along. 3 of those guys are brand new starters. So still trying to gel that unit. At the running back spot, it's been Isaac Carano and Zach Maples. Zach's kind of coming back from some injuries he faced earlier in the year. But both those guys are running the ball pretty well now. And then at receiver, we're blessed to have out there with Parker, you've got Jones Merrill, the youngest Merrill brother, who actually I think led the team in catches last week. And then you have pretty good job from our tight end right now with Cooper Mullins and Smith Helms. So just really pleased that in a team sport, you got to have guys that buy into that concept, and that's what those guys have done thus far. Is they've bought into being what can we do to make this football team better?
It seems like you've had a Merrill on the team for like 10 years, and maybe that's accurate. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we've had a Merrill since 2016 or 2017. Wow. Yeah.
So it's getting close.
Yeah, it's getting close.
For sure.
Getting close.
Coach Rathbone, we highlighted some of the marquee guys for you, but there's a lot of other guys I'm sure you'd like to talk about. Who are some of those guys?
You know, I mean, the guy that really kind of gets us going defensively is Sean Cunningham, the middle linebacker. I mean, he's a quick player, probably going to commit to Davidson. That runs sideline to sideline. You got to love guys like Jordan Curl, who plays both ways and doesn't really come off the field. And Sloan Bass plays in the trenches. He's at center and also plays some defensive tackle for us. You got some new guys on the corners. Our corners have been hurt that they're playing really well. Ryder Casillas, Peyton Dickerson, who's returning kicks and punts and playing receiver for us. So we got a lot of guys that are playing both ways, which that scares a lot of coaches. Scares me too. Scares me to death, to be honest with you. But right now it's kind of where we're at and something we have to do. And all those guys are doing really well. Drew Rimple, who also moved in, that was going to play quarterback, and you know he's moved out to receiver, and he had a touchdown his first game at receiver last week. So he's done a great job. Just really impressed with all those kids and just how they've bought into everything that we're trying to sell them.
So, Coach Rathbone, when I look at you guys statistically, you're one of the most balanced teams I've seen. You know, you're getting about 480 yards a game, and when you look at the run versus pass, yardage wise, it's pretty even. What's the secret to that?
Well, I mean, again, players. You know,
right.
I mean,
I thought that's what you would say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, as a coach, you know, really what we look at offensively, if they're going to put 6 or 7 in the box, we're going to try to throw the ball, whether it be a screen or take a shot downfield or whatever. If we get to 6 or fewer in the box, we feel like we should be able to run the ball. And it's going to be read option or RPO or whatever. And we've got 2 running backs in Pierre and Odie that's just been phenomenal all year. Odie's got 6 touchdowns on the year. I mean, so he's been a phenomenal running back. So we just kind of look at I'm not a math guy, but you look at the math of it and you just trying to play the math and try to call the play that gives you the best chance of being successful, and they've executed so far.
Now, Coach Finch, it seems like every year Brentwood has a great defense, and that's been, continued in your tenure, Coach Crawford before you and many others. Brentwood Academy game, a little bit of an outlier. Obviously, they got a lot of offensive firepower, but you hold Smyrna to 13 points and hold Summit to 7. What's the secret to your success about being consistently good on defense?
Well, and I think I always want to give credit to those guys over there on defense. Coach Kane's been our defensive coordinator since I got the head coaching job in 2021. He always has a great plan. All those defensive coaches they do their homework. They know exactly, what they need to work on each week. our kids have to buy in to being a sound team defense. They have to understand that it's always going to be about playing the next play. We're not really simple on defense. We like to think that we're a little complex over there. We think that's an advantage that we get by having our guys kind of either play offense or defense. They can major in one side of the ball, and maybe we can add some complexity to it. But really good tacklers. Always do a good job of understanding where to fit runs, where to be in the pass zones, and things like that. And a lot of it right now is the two kids I think that are really, really key over there, the two returning starters we have, and that's Jackson Allen at safety and Barron Langford at linebacker. And so if you don't have a safety that understands the checks and understands where everybody's supposed to be lined up, you're going to have coverage problems. If you don't have a linebacker that understands the front and where all the linebacker fits are supposed to be, you're going to have a problem. We've leaned heavily on those two seniors this year, and they've done a great job for us. It's just, again, they've really bought in. Our defense has bought in trying to be the best defense they can be each week, and we think they're going to continue to get better. We think there's a higher ceiling that they're going to try to reach before the season's over.
So when you guys came to Media Day, you each brought 3 players with you, and across the board, all the teams did really well. I think one of the highlights at Media Day for me was listening to Knight Wilson talk about playing for Air Force Academy and serving his country and things like that. But everybody up there seemed to have just really good camaraderie with your team, which to me, obviously I feel like you have a strong culture. How strong is that culture, and what's the driving force behind that?
Well, for us, I feel like the culture is really what keeps me there. I've been there a lot of years, and I love the kids at Page High School. And it's changed over the years. When I first got there, it was a lot of country kids, and you go down there and they're all talking about their farms and having to cut hay, and now you don't have that anymore. Now it's to grow. But what has remained true and been constant is the kids are just extremely great kids. They're giving kids, they're caring kids. Yes, we have our warts and flaws like every other school and program, but they genuinely care about one another. They're welcoming to one another. Anytime there's a new kid, they want to know, they're eager to learn. And I think the football team is a lot the same way. They want to get out and help people that need help. If they hear of somebody, we had a house that got struck by lightning the other day, and our football players were over there helping them clean up the next day. So it's those type things that really, I feel like, just grabs you and pulls you into the culture of Page High School, not just football, but into Page High School and Rudderville, and you kind of own that. Yeah, we're small, but we can do big things, and I'm super proud of those guys and just how hard and how much they care about not just themselves, but everybody around them and others in the community, whether it's Brentwood, Franklin, Ravenwood, it doesn't matter. We just want to get out and help anybody that needs help.
And Coach Finch, kind of the same thing. I remember your guys specifically talking about the guys that led them when they were sophomores, and now they're trying to return the favor. And I honestly think, one of the most impressive things I've noticed about particularly Brentwood football over the years, blue-collar attitude, not necessarily in a blue-collar area.
Yeah. Well, and I think, what we always tell the kids, like, one of the advantages I think we have is that you live in a community that expects success, okay? There's a reason why those parents live in the homes they live in. They worked really hard for that. There's a reason why, Brentwood High School is the #1 ranked comprehensive high school in the state of Tennessee. Everybody expects success, all right? And that's maybe the most important part of our culture is that when we sit there and say, hey, it's going to be 104 degrees today, we got to be here at 5:30 in the morning, everybody's there because they understand that's what leads to your success. I think that's a huge advantage, and that existed well before Coach Finch got there, right? I mean, that's been there for a long time. I do think that I'm really, really proud of our kids of always understanding that, there was Brentwood football before you got here, and there's going to be Brentwood football after you leave. And it's probably a little bit of a cliche, but the idea of, are you going to leave it better than you found it? And our kids have always bought into it. It's always something that very early in the summer, I sit down with all of our seniors and we talk about, hey, this is going to wind up being associated. However this senior year goes will be associated with the job you did. And we've been just so blessed to have senior class after senior class take ownership of that. Be great leaders, be great mentors. And again, we're like everybody else. We have our warts too. But at the end of the day, just really good kids, really good families that expect success and know what it takes to experience that success.
Yeah, 2 of the older schools in the county. A lot of community pride in both in both areas of the county there. So let's talk a little bit about the game. Coach Rathbone, we'll start with you. What do you see some of the biggest challenges you guys are going to face tonight?
Well, they run a lot of formations, do a lot. They love the buck sweep. They love getting number 6 the ball. They throw a lot of screens, which always concerns a coach when you throw screens, because if you over pursue and they catch you one time, then they're going to house it. So we just got to be sound and disciplined and tackle and stay in the right zones and get our run fits. They run so hard with the ball. Those 2 backs they got run so hard. So we got to find a way to get those on the ground. Offensively, we just got to execute. We've had a lot of penalties the last few weeks. Several of those have been effort penalties, which I don't mind too much, but some of them have just been stupid penalties. And those are the ones we got to clean up and get out and make sure that we're cleaning our game up and take care of the football. When you get to games like this, it almost always comes down to turnovers and penalties. And really it comes down to who's going to hold on the ball and who's not. And I don't see this game being any different than most others.
Coach Finch?
So I think same thing, defensively, they're just so explosive on offense. You can't let them get behind you in the defensive backfield. You got to find a way to get them on the ground, right? You got to be great tacklers. You cannot sit there and have any mistakes. You can't allow them to extend a drive. I think getting off the field on 3rd down will be a huge part of tonight's game. Offensively, probably understanding that we're going to have to win it up front at some point in time. If you cannot run the football, you're not going to be very successful. So a lot of pressure on our offensive line, a lot of pressure on our sophomore quarterback, Gavin Strang, who we think continues to improve, but he's going to have to make some throws tonight. He's got some talented receivers out there. We're going to need him to hang in the pocket, put the ball in the money a few times. And then standard coach speak, no penalties, no turnovers, and handle the moment too. It's going to be pretty electric, I think, tonight. I think it'll be a great atmosphere who can handle that moment and kind of play their game despite all the hoopla associated with the game.
So let's, when usually we bring in the coaches here and I talk a little bit their preparation for the week, and I know a lot of coaches have gone to, the Thursday morning walkthrough so their kids can go home on Thursday afternoons. Talk a little bit, I know it's been a different week. You didn't play and then you played Saturday. What does preparation look like for you this week? We'll start with Coach Rathbone.
Well, for us, it's kind of same. One little change up is we actually play JV and freshmen on Monday, which usually play them afterwards. So it's kind of unique. But for us, we come in early Monday mornings, we get our lift in, then we do our little install session in the afternoons, and then hit it hard Tuesday and Wednesday. Now we do stay after on Thursday, but we've kind of built the parents have started a culture of having a senior dinner. So all the seniors will get together and go to one house, and they'll feed all the seniors a dinner. So then a couple years ago, it picked up, well, we want a junior dinner. So then the juniors, and then the sophomores.
Everybody gets involved.
So now everybody, free food, everybody goes. So so it's kind of that thing. So really not a whole lot different for us this week. We're just trying to focus on what we do and try to get as many reps at what our plan is as we can throughout the week. And to me, that's key. The more these kids see it, the better they're going to be prepared to execute it on the game tonight.
Coach Finch?
Pretty much the same thing. Obviously we come in as a staff on Sunday and we meet on Sunday and you put a game plan together. We do most of our lifting in the mornings on Monday and Wednesday because our kids are pretty academic, so we don't want to have them there forever at night. We know they have to go home, and they're all in AP classes, it seems like, so you got to get them home.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, you know what that's like. But same thing, you've got an idea coming out of Sunday. You want to sit there and kind of install that on Monday, and then on Tuesday and Wednesday, you got to tweak it. A big thing for us is kind of know what you need to pull out of the game plan, right? By Wednesday today, we'll kind of have our Friday night game plan finalized, and then tomorrow it's just going to be polish it up. We're the same way. We stay after school because we'll have our walkthrough. We'll have our outside the lines program that's been a big part of Brentwood football for a long time, and then like everybody has a team dinner that night as well. But really, I think just kind of understanding what is your core offensive plays, what's your core defensive calls, being really, really good at that, and then figuring out what you need to tweak. You don't need to sit there and reinvent the wheel each week. Go out there and give your kid quality reps, make sure that they're doing things the right way to put them in the best position to win the game on Friday.
All right, I always ask this question too, and this is only my third coach's show, so you guys might be caught off guard with this, but any pregame rituals or superstitions, Coach Rathbone?
For me, no. Our kids have quite a few, but I don't. I kind of just, I'm one of those really nervous. I get really nervous And I think that's because, usually by game time tonight, we don't have any more control. It's up to the kids to go. Williamson County is not that bad in some places. We're putting our jobs on the line with 16, 17-year-old kids. And, that gets a little scary if you sit and harp on it. But no, I just kind of like to get by myself and kind of review the game plan in my head and make sure I'm on the right, frame of mind going into the game. And, getting the kids fed after the game and all that stuff really takes up a lot of time, stretched out stuff. So there's not a whole lot of free time like you'd think.
Coach?
It gets pretty dark when you get to my superstitions. I could probably go on for another hour about that. I would like to say I wasn't that guy, but I am. Probably for me is we want to get our kids home, let them get something that they want to eat, get them back in that building, keep it loose. Okay, I'm not one to get. I don't like them too tight. There's kind of a medium point in there where they're not too loose, but they're not too tight. A few years ago, our team chaplain Garrett Gregory started giving. He's a big golfer, and so every year he gives each of our kids a golf tee. And that tee represents Brentwood football. And so I always want to make sure I got my golf tee in my pocket because that's been pretty good luck for us the last few years. And I always wanted to make sure, remind the kids, make sure you remember this is about us. We don't want to be sitting there doing everything based on outside influences. This needs to be about what's best for the team. Probably my big one is when I walk up to the field, and like most people, the specialists go. Okay, and then after that, the big group goes up to the field. And I can't walk up with either group. I have to walk up by myself. That sounds crazy, but that's who I am. So a couple of years ago, we had a new coach, and I started to leave the office to walk up to the field. And he's like, I'll walk with you. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. I'm sorry. So I made him. I said, you can come in a minute. But, it's just football is such a unique thing. You only get 10 of these guaranteed a year. And I'm like Charles is, there's a certain amount of nervousness and nervous energy that gets tied up into Friday night, but it's one of the things that makes this sport fun, is that you only get to do it so often. It's not that you're doing it 2 or 3 times a week, like maybe basketball or baseball or softball or something else. So I think those nerves are justified because it's just such a unique occasion when you get to go out and play a game on Friday night.
All right, last question here. I know what you guys want to say. It's going to be penalties or turnovers, but, if this goes right tonight, I feel good about our chances. Coach Rathbone?
If we're able to execute the game plan, I feel pretty good, because I feel like we got some guys, if we can get the ball to them in space and force Brentwood or whoever to have to get out of position to make plays, then I feel really good about our chance of success, because I feel like we can, putting our guys in the right place, just like Brentwood wants to put their guys in the right place. That's really the key, because we both have guys that can play. We both have guys that are good. So if we could put them in the right position to make a play, I feel confident they'll make that play.
Coach Finch?
Stay balanced, and for me, balanced is making sure that all your playmakers get touches. That'll be a huge thing for tonight. Can we get the ball to multiple receivers? Can we get the ball in the hands of multiple running backs? That'll be super important for us. Can we find ways to get matchups that are in our favor? That'll be super important. And is that going to be through motion? Is that going to be through formations? How do we find ways to get our best players in the best grass, the most space available? At the same point in time, if you get anything different on defense, how fast can you adjust to that? Everybody's going to have a little tweak each week. You need to find a way to get it adjusted. We need to start fast on offense. I don't feel like we've started fast on offense all year. We need to sit there and find a way to get some points early. We need to extend drives. If the ball, again, I just think they're incredibly explosive. If we have the ball, they can't score. So elongate drives, find ways to extend drives on 3rd downs, 4th downs, pick up that 1st down somehow. And then on defense, again, you've got to, if you get them in a 3rd down and get a chance to get them off the field, you've got to get them off the field. Otherwise, they're probably going to make you pay for it.
Well, gentlemen, should be a heck of a game tonight. 2 fine coaches, 2 fine programs. Appreciate y'all's time today.
Thank you for having us.
Always glad to be here.
All right, so that's going to wrap up our WCS Coaches Show. Get out to Rudderville tonight and get there early. It is going to be an amazing atmosphere. 2 of the top teams in not just Middle Tennessee, but the state. And thanks for tuning in.